Voices of the Lost Authors. If Yukio Mishima spoke about digital loneliness, the hollow where the sword once rested, a fictional monologue in the voice of Yukio Mishima, confronting digital loneliness not as decay, but as a rupture, a loss of form, of flesh, of meaning. There is a hollowness now, not silence, but the absence of tension. Once, the soul strained to fit the form of the body, like a sword sleeved within its sheath. But today, the form is forgotten, discarded like an outdated uniform. The flesh exists, yes, but it no longer holds the spirit in place. We float, we transmit, we echo, yet we never strike. These hands once existed to grip steel, to carve meaning from resistance. Now they swipe. Smooth surfaces, infinite scroll. No weight, no consequence. The body, once a theater for discipline and expression, has become a ghost. There is no stage, only projection. We perform our emotions like dilettantes, untrained and unashamed, hoping applause might come through a glowing screen. But applause is not recognition. It is noise without judgment. A body, left untouched by discipline, decays not into death but into shapelessness. To forge strength, we once subjected flesh to fire, to blade, to scrutiny. Now, we are praised for existing, celebrated for breathing, absolved of every duty toward form. To live among others is not to be seen, but to be held in form by their gaze, their pressure, their disapproval. Digital society has abolished disapproval. Everything is permitted, therefore nothing is respected. Strength once demanded the courage to endure rejection, to carve identity against resistance. Now, weakness demands applause, and mere exposure is mistaken for bravery. In this freedom without danger, we become shapeless. We leak into each other's timelines, spill our desires into comments, mistake confession for courage. We are not intimate. We are naked in a crowd, and no one feels the cold. When I was young, I believed in death as a form. To die was to select the moment, the gesture, the scenery. Death was not an end, but a final composition of the self. Now, death is absorbed into statistics, rendered silent by algorithms. One fades from the feed, and it is as if one never lived. Mortality is no longer a drama, but a deletion. How can the spirit survive in an age where even tragedy is content? I do not lament the loss of connection. I lament the loss of resistance. The screen gives too easily. The sword never bends. Beauty does not exist where there is no tension. Ritual does not exist where there is no risk. Without sacrifice, ceremony is parody. What remains is theater. Not entertainment, but that sacred stage where form redeems impulse, where ritual restrains chaos, where beauty is not decoration but armor. Perhaps digital loneliness is not loneliness at all. It is something more terrifying, a life without boundaries, a self without skin. A true body must meet resistance to be known. A true spirit must fight gravity to ascend. I speak now not to be heard, but to strike. If the blade does not meet resistance, it is not alive. And so I write this, as a slash across the void, a final movement against the softness that surrounds us. Let there be edge, let there be form. Let there be the silence that follows a clean cut. That, at least, would be beautiful. Yukio Mishima, author profile, Voices of the Lost Authors. Yukio Mishima, 1925–1970, was a Japanese novelist, playwright, and nationalist whose work explored the tension between beauty, discipline, and existential despair. A master of form and ritual, Mishima sought aesthetic purity through both words and action. His most acclaimed novels, The Temple of the Golden Pavilion and Confessions of a Mask, examine the crisis of identity and the search for meaning in a post-war, spiritually fragmented Japan. Often described as a tragedian in an age of irony, Mishima's prose is sharp, ceremonial, and exacting, driven by the belief that form is truth and that beauty, when divorced from sacrifice, becomes hollow. This fictional monologue reimagines how Mishima might confront digital loneliness, not as sorrow, but as the terrifying loss of boundaries, of resistance, of flesh.